Sole Administrator of River State, Vice Admiral Ibok-Ete Ibas, retired, has declared his impartial stand in the crisis rocking the state. Ibas vowed to uphold the law and ensure that all aggrieved parties, irrespective of political leanings, have a voice in the future. He made the appeal at a meeting with the heads of youth organizations and stakeholders led by the River State Chairman of National Youth Council of Nigeria, Wisabari Bani, at Government House on Port Harcourt on Saturday. According to Ibas, it is important to restate my impartial stand on the political crisis that has plagued our state. I remain committed to upholding the law and ensuring that all individuals, irrespective of their political affiliations, have a voice in the future of River State. My administration will continue to focus on the collective good of our people. President Bola Tinubu has appointed Ibas as the sole administrator of River State following the political crisis rocking the state. The crisis started between suspended Governor Similaye Fubara and the Minister of the Federal Capital Territory, Nyesom Wike, shortly after the governor assumed power in 2023. Nze, I will start with you. What do you make of this story and the stand of the sole administrator that he is impartial in the political crisis in River State?
Well, thank you very much. I think that, first of all, looking at the statement of Ibas, it does not depict his action at all.
Okay.
Yeah, because his statement is like telling a blind man that there is no salt in the soup. And that is very difficult to understand. We who were watching the trend of things in River State prior to the declaration of state of emergency, saw the extent to which River State had maintained peace and crisis, you know, the way it has been managed, and seeing the Ibas coming. Ibas is a man I respected so much while he was in the Navy, because I have my affiliation there as well. So I had this great respect for him. So when he was named as the sole administrator coming to River State, I cried foul. My reason was that this man who has served Nigeria meritoriously and has passed out of the stage, you know, with a loud ovation as Chief of Naval Staff, is now coming to rub himself in the mud of politics. You now see the way people have cried foul over the declaration of emergency in River State, the partiality, the lopsided action of Mr. President, you know, winking over some certain areas that required the state of emergency, and wielding the heavy hammer on River State with this state of emergency and suspension of democratic order in River State, because he suspended the lawmakers, suspended the governor, and brought Ibas. And we saw Ibas coming with the interest of making peace. But when he came, he discovered that there was no crisis. So he came to make peace.
Ibas discovered there was no crisis.
There was no crisis.
So there was no political crisis in River State.
No, the political, what you had in River State was political disagreement, not political crisis. Because to the extent to which we know, like sometimes here is an expert in crisis resolution and all that, and to know that when you talk about crisis, you should be able to know what is crisis. Yes, the governor has, in his wisdom, has tried and managed to control the disagreement and the disagreement they had within the political class over this time. And before you know it, the president, based on whatever is said to him or whatever interest he had, now had to lay the heavy hammer on Rivers people and you know, remove the governor and brought Ibas. Now that Ibas has come, we expected him. I felt that as a if I would say, a certified military man who knows what to do and who can take initiative even in a critical time. I'd expected him to quietly look into the whole thing and push this party to this side, push this party to this side, and begin to work neutrally. But we saw that both himself and the President of Federal Republic of Nigeria, Ahmed Bola Tinubu, we saw that the way they separated the fight in River State is like a woman who come to where his two children are fighting, and he spanked this one,
push this one aside, carry this one to the room.
Now, if I may ask you, what are the actions that Ibas has done so far that, you know, makes you say that he is partial in Rivers State?
Number one, we saw that immediately he came, he started destroying and demolishing all the structures that is in place, the political structures.
Can you give examples?
Number one, he sacked all the, in fact, let me use the word, he disbanded all the board that have been instituted, that have been functioning.
Okay.
Now, he removed all the people serving in all these government parastatals that are supposedly or assumably appointed by Governor Fubara. Now, he removed all these people.
Okay.
Now, we were looking at him to see what he will replace those offices with. We now saw him replacing those offices gradually with loyalists to Nyesom Wike. Now, first and foremost, he brought in the issue of budget, that he will make a budget for Rivers State. And I began to look at it. I'm not a lawyer, but I think I have common sense. The Supreme Court said that the budget that the governor presented to Okojombo-led assembly was illegal, that he should represent the budget, and the only budget that will serve, that federal government will release money, Rivers State Fund to, is a budget that is screened by the legislators. Now, for that reason, they seized the allocation of Rivers State. Now, Ibas came, said that he will now present budget, and he's planning to make a budget that who will screen, maybe he will go to National Assembly. Now, to me, I'm not okay with that, but I felt that trying to do that is to cancel everything that has been running to start something different.
All right.
You see that, secondly, he came to some of the contracts that have been awarded by the governor that is running. He cancelled all of them. Now, setting Rivers people backward.
Did he cancel ongoing contracts?
Yes.
Are you sure that he cancelled ongoing contracts?
When he said that all the jobs that the governor has given, the contracts the governor has given, that they should return back the money and things like that, what do you expect?
let me explain that.
Okay.
What he said, he didn't cancel ongoing contracts. What he cancelled was pending, because there are processes to awarding a contract, procurements and tenders. When you tender your proposal, pending procurements, not ongoing.
Now,
because hold on, you would agree that he has also been going from places to places that have ongoing projects. There were projects he has given 6 months to finish, and these are ongoing projects that, you know, the administration of Governor Sim Fubara was handling. He did not cancel. I think that information needs to be clarified.
Yeah,
what was cancelled was, and he now told the MDAs to refund monies that have been paid, because even if you're tendering your contracts, procurements, and whatever it is you're tendering, you have to pay certain amounts to MDAs and agencies. So he's saying refund all of that. But then that's on one hand.
That's on one hand. Let me also conclude by saying,
yes,
pointing out this, like coming to those procurements and all that, you know, we felt that he didn't handle it well. Because one, Mr. President in his speech said that this man does not have power to make laws. He was very, very emphatic on that. But we see him now coming up from the other angle, raising issues.
The National Assembly said that Ibas, when they were ratifying the decision of the president, National Assembly said that Ibas does not have the power to make laws. However, he can raise policies that will aid his administration. National Assembly said that. So far, when you talk about making law, it means that you have to pass through the National Assembly, because National Assembly legislates for a state in the case of a state of emergency. So now moving forward.
But before we can look at this last point I want to raise about this, the operations of Ibas, you know, that contradicted his statement of his stand-off.
Okay, go ahead.
He is now appointing local government administrators. Sorry, some of those administrators are my personal family friends. But I will not, because it has maybe favored me, He said that it is not. Why did I even use the word favor? Because it is all about money. But I'm not interested in that. Now, why appointing local government administrators? Even when the Supreme Court said that the only people that supposed to handle local government leadership is the elected officers by the people. Now, but he has appointed them. Even when court said, no, don't do that, he went ahead to overrule the court.
All right.
So, to me, when we talk about impartiality, no. Ibas is not, and for him to come and say this, he's making us believe that everything he gathered as a military man left him.
All right.
The moment he joined these politicians.
Okay, very well. Now, before I move over to Ndamzi, or probably I will ask this question to Ndamzi so that Ndamzi will have the floor. Now, when you were speaking, you said that there was no political crisis in Rivers State, and that what we have in Rivers State is political misunderstanding. That was political misunderstanding and disagreement, and there was no political crisis, and as such there is absolutely no need for the state of emergency.
No
all right, very well. Now I will take you to the Constitution, and then we'll marry it with what was existing or what was on ground prior to the declaration of state of emergency in Rivers State. Now, I will go to Chapter 8, Part 2, Section 305 of the Nigerian Constitution, the 1999 Constitution as amended. Now, and this is dealing with procedure for proclamation of state of emergency. So we'll go to the Section 3D of that. I'll start with 3. It says the president shall have the power to issue a proclamation of a state of emergency only when, let's say, let me start with D. There is a clear and present danger of an actual breakdown. There is a clear and present danger of an actual breakdown of public order and public safety in the Federation or any part thereof, requiring extraordinary measures to avert, underlining avert such danger. Now, from this section, it's not saying that the danger is already existing. However, it is futuristic. He said there is a clear, which means there are indices showing that there is going to be a potential breakdown of law and order. He said there is a clear and present danger of an actual breakdown, which means it has not happened yet, of an actual breakdown of public law and order in the Federation or any part of, requiring extraordinary measures to avert. Averting means to stop that from happening. And then when you go to the F of that, which brings me to the question when you said there was no political crisis but political disagreement. The F says, the president shall have the power, the president shall declare, or the president shall have the power to issue a state of emergency, a proclamation of a state of emergency only when the F says there is any other public danger which clearly constitutes a threat to the existence of the Federation. Now, when you're talking of existence of Federation in this instance, I'm looking at the political implications of the crisis in Rivers State. Prior to the declaration of state of emergency, there were threats of impeachment of the governor. With regards to presenting the budget, not presenting the budget, you sent letter through social media, you received it through WhatsApp and all of that. Now, there was an impasse even after Supreme Court judgment, and the tensions were rising, and there were threats of impeachment of the suspended governor. And shortly after that, the Ijo Youth Council, it took an ethnic coloration. There were threats that were made, it's on record. There were threats of bombing the pipelines. There were threats of shutting down the oil ways. There were so many threats. Then the actual explosion of pipelines followed suit. In fact, in less than 24 hours, 2 pipelines were exploded in Rivers State. One, I think, in Ahoda, exploded back to back, and it was after the explosion of the second pipeline, and then there was now another news that said the third pipeline had exploded, even though that was unverified. When that news broke, the next thing that followed suit was a declaration of the state of emergency. Now, if you look at what the Constitution has provided, you will see that there was an actual breakdown of law and order. We had transited from...
I would like you to note, just underline the actual
hold
breakdown.
Hold on. There was a transition from the political disagreement, you had called it, to political crisis. Everybody in Rivers State knows that there was a political crisis, and it was taking the violent turn. And both parties in this crisis didn't want to sheath their swords. So when you look at the Constitution and look at what was on ground at that time, are you still saying that there was no crisis in Rivers State, but a mere misunderstanding?
Oh, thank you very much, Laurentia. You know, we are Nigerians, and I don't like it when the people at the leadership cadre runs the mind of the people at the grassroots as if they are being remote controlled. When I told you that what we had in Rivers State was political disagreement and misunderstanding, I will point you back to interpretations of court orders from various angles. It was based on the understanding of the people, and when you interpret a court order the way it suits you, I will misunderstand you, and I will interpret mine the way it suits me. You will misunderstand me, and this has been going on in Rivers State. Now, you talked about, you quoted the Constitution, and I was too careful to follow the readings of the Constitution. And the people who wrote this Constitution were, in fact, they didn't write it based on what is now happening in Rivers State. But the question I want to ask, is Rivers State the only state in the federating unit of Nigeria? The answer is no. When you talk about breakdown of law and order, you see that while all these things are happening in Rivers State, nobody has chopped off the head of another. Nobody has broken the head of even the supposed or the assumed enemies. We always drink in the same bar. They will always attend the same party. You've seen Fubara and Wike sometimes, you know, meet in burials and public functions like that. You've seen the followers of Fubara, the followers of Wike, sometimes meet. Some of them are even family members. But we saw in this same state, in Plateau State, in Enugu State, in Katsina State, in Zamfara State, in Edo State, in Osun State, we see killing. In Benue State, in Bayelsa State, we see killing, which anybody, any right-thinking person will consider a crisis. That even in Borno State, the governor of Borno State have come out to cry, to give a public outcry that some communities in his state have been overtaken by Boko Haram. In Plateau State, about 60-something communities have been wiped out. Every person is ongoing in a state in this country called Nigeria. And Mr. President, who is upholding the Constitution, has not deemed it right to protect the life and the properties of the people whom he was sworn into power to protect. And he's coming to Rivers State saying that based on what he's hearing, there is likelihood that there could be breakdown of law and order. And he so much loved Rivers people that he wouldn't like the blood of a Rivers man to drop on the ground. For that reason, he had to impose state of emergency and suspend the governor, suspend the legislators and things like that. Whereas there are places calling for state of emergency, at least to foster, or except if Mr. President would tell me that he is responsible for the killings that is going on in all these places. Maybe he has a different thing in mind.
All right, and then now I'm going to give Ndams the floor. But it was quite interesting that I had told you, I've cited example of an actual breakdown of law and order that, you know, followed, and the aftermath was a declaration of state of emergency. I was marrying those instances and the actual threats by the Ijaw people, some of the Ijaw people, by the way, and some of the Ijaw organizations, actual threats by them. And I had asked you, would you say it was because you said there was no crisis?
There was no crisis.
So the bombing of pipelines were just a misunderstanding.
I was careful to skim that.
You cannot skim it because that is the reality in Rivers State politics.
Let me come to it. Let me just clarify you now.
Are there implications? Are there economic implications? Are there severe economic implications to the bombing of pipelines?
Economic implications. In fact, there is no how my economy will be more valuable than my life. Now let's come to this bombing of of pipelines and others.
Was it politically motivated?
The question is, who was responsible?
Was it politically motivated?
To me, I believe it was politically motivated,
then you
and
have
it was
your
carried
answer.
out. It was carried out by the same people who are even giving the state of emergency.
You have your answer. The bombing of pipelines was politically
No,
motivated.
and not all of them, because the one in Soku people came to say that there was
politically motivated and directly linked to River State crisis. So there was no misunderstanding, but an
why has
actual
law
crisis.
enforcement agencies
Now I will
not
come
picked
to
anybody that is
I will
responsible for
come
that?
over to Ndamzi. Ndamzi, I mean, I've had a lot of interesting conversation with Nze, and I know you have been listening patiently. I want to get your stand on the statement by Ibas, and then any other thing you want to say with reaction to what Nze has said.
Okay, thank you very much, Laurentia, for having me this morning. I listened keenly to my big brother, Nze. Nze, he has, made, serious points, which as a Nigerian he's entitled to, because everybody is entitled to his or her opinion, looking at us having good governance in Nigeria. That's exactly what we want, okay? But tailoring it down to the comment of Ibas that he is impartial, as regards Rivers crisis. I want us to look at something very critical. Let us, cast our mind back to the Supreme Court judgment that annulled the local government elections in Rivers State, and also the Supreme Court judgment that gave a voice to ratifying the position of the 27 House of Assembly members. In that judgment, the Supreme Court was very particular in their choice of words. They described the governor as a despot. That is one. And Supreme Court went ahead to say that there was no government in Rivers State. I am a lawyer, and we all understand when they say there was no government or there is no government in a particular state. It means no heads of ministries, which is the commissioners are existing there, because the House of Assembly never screened them. It means the board appointments made by the governor is non-existing. It means all the heads of agencies and parastatals appointed by the governor never existed in the eyes of the law. Then now, the president, on the reason why the president, declared state of emergency in Rivers State, Section 305, we all know, it's a discretionary power allotted the president. He and he alone can exercise that power. It is to his discretion whether or not to declare emergency in any part of Nigeria thereof. And the president, in his own wisdom, has declared state of emergency in Rivers State. And even to the opinion of some of us who, we have looked at the Constitution and say, oh, Mr. President, although you have the powers to declare emergency, you have overreached your powers by suspending. Though that is a matter in Supreme Court. Now we are waiting for the court to give it a voice and interpret that section of the Constitution, whether he has overreached his powers or not. So now, the president has sent Ibas to come and represent him in Rivers State, because for an emergency to be declared in a state means the governor there have failed. That is the raw truth. It means the governor there have failed in his constitutional duties and also in giving governance to the people of Rivers State. So the president deemed it fit to send in a representative. Ibas is representing the president in Rivers State. So Ibas has come in. Whether or not his position is constitutionally recognized, it's immaterial at this point. The most important thing is that the presidency has stepped in to obtain and run government in Rivers State, he has to appoint those who will make his job easy within this period as instructed by the president. So Ibas cannot be in the government house and administer the various local governments. He should have contact points. People who will be accountable at the little resources, because one cannot tell us that because Supreme Court annulled the local government election, so for that we wouldn't have local government administration. No. Even though the Supreme Court have, in their wisdom on several occasions, said no other party can administer the local government except a democratically elected local government officials. Now, let us give voice to reason. The court have said there was no government in Rivers State.
And there was no local
there was no local government election. People must move the government forward until either the declaration is being recalled or we have proper election in the state. Otherwise, if we allow governance to just be stagnant, the society will be in shambles. People must take responsibilities. People must man the various ministries and parastatals to move the government forward. People must man the various local governments. So I am not, against Ibas appointing local government administrators. The matter is already in court. By the time the court dispenses its responsibility in that question, then we will know whether or not the actions of Ibas was unlawful, was unconstitutional. But for now, in my own view, I would suggest that the local government administrators, as appointed by Ibas, it's in the right direction, because someone must administer the local government for the time being. If the president, in his wisdom, has brought in an administrator to administer Rivers State for the time being, pending when the resolutions, the crisis, and all that is resolved. So, Ibas, for now, I don't find his action disturbing. A few days ago, we all saw Ibas visiting project sites, and he assured contractors that the projects will go on. So, in my view, I will advise that Rivers people, we are where we are today because of ego. People want to show off they are more powerful than others. People do not want to obey the constitution of the country. If the governor, without fear or favor, I say this, if the governor had not infracted the constitution of Federal Republic of Nigeria, we will not be where we are here today.
Now, the question I want to ask you is a very simple one. Now, part of the concerns that Nze raised was that the sole administrator had gone ahead to appoint 23 local government administrators despite court order restraining him from doing so.
You see, the issue of court order, it's laughable.
Why?
Because I wonder how people, go to social media and misinform others. To my greater dismay, I even heard it on radio that there was a court order barring Ibas not to appoint. Let us set the record straight for the interest of our listening viewers. There has not been a court order asking Ibas not to make an appointment. Rather, some parties have preferred a suit, okay? And court, in their wisdom, have just ordered that the parties be served on substituted means. That is the order so far that court has made. When was the matter filed in court, and when did the court sit to make this order. So people should not, because of interest in what is going on, and now misinterpret and misquote and also deceive the public. So Nigerians should know that what happened in court is simple. They have filed an action against Ibas, asking the court, making their prayers. One of the prayers was whether Ibas have the constitutional right to be to administer the state for the time being, and also whether Ibas can make appointments. So the court have not even sat and heard from parties. The court have not even received reply from Ibas and his legal team. So what the court have just done so far was to make an interim order for substitutive service.
Okay, now
so for now there is no order of court.
Let me read this piece of information on that. It says the Federal High Court in Port Harcourt has restrained Ibok-Ete Ibas, the sole administrator of Rivers State, from appointing coordinators to oversee the 23 local government areas in the state. Adamu Mohammed, the presiding judge, issued the restraining order on Monday following an ex parte order. An ex parte order was filed. That was an ex parte order. Following an ex parte application filed by PILEX Center for Civic Education Initiative, a civil society led by Courage in Sirimovu. Now, this is what is on ground. But now, this is the question I want to ask you. This is a question I want to ask you with regards to that. Okay, now, he said after listening to the motion, the judge granted the application and ruled that the respondent should appear before the court to show cause why the application should not be granted. The case was adjourned to April 14 for hearing. Now, this is one of it, and everybody, most persons, this was the reaction that was coming out, and this news broke 5 days ago. Now, that is it on one ground. There was an ex parte order that was granted by Justice Mohammed of Rivers State High Court, which now brings me to the next question. You recall that there is a Supreme Court precedence during the Joshua Dariye matter and the sole administrator, and even during the Obasanjo era. The Supreme Court had given judgment in one of the matters where the sole administrator applied to be a joinder to the suit. And he said that that matter, he did not approve of that matter to go before the court. So now, there is a precedent, which I am aware, that if you are raising a matter against the government, a sole administrator as well, he has to approve of that matter, particularly in issues that has to do with the lower courts. I'm also aware, you are a lawyer, probably you will clarify better, but I'm also aware that matters that are relating to issues like the sole administrator, issues like this, and the states, the jurisdiction falls within the Supreme Court. Is that correct? And in issues like this, it has to be a state, or I don't know, but I need you to explain that, because when people say that the Ibas disregarded the ex parte order restraining him, the question would be, did Ibas approve of that suit that was filed against him? I'm aware that this exists in Supreme Court judgment. There is a precedence. So Ndamzi, are you aware of that as well? You are a lawyer.
Yes, we need to set the record straight.
Go ahead.
Again, when issues like this happen, it is between the federal government and the state government, okay, in this case. And the proper court to approach is the Supreme Court.
Okay.
But the issue of Rivers State is quite dicey here. Now, the proper party to have approached the court is the affected, suspended governor and the other elected
but the suspended governor in this instance and the elected officials in this instance, the governor, for example, cannot act for the state because he's suspended. Can he act for the states? If he can, why is the PDP governors taking up the matter?
The governor has right to sue, okay? He has right to sue the federal
infringement of fundamental human rights.
He can bring an action on that ground,
okay,
that his rights
has been infringed upon.
Let the Supreme Court interpret the relevant sections of the law.
All right.
All right. So what I'm trying to say here is that the governor is the proper party.
So now, in this instance, there are two things. The governor can take federal government to court.
Exactly.
With regards to infringement to his rights.
To his right.
But the governor cannot sue on behalf of the state.
No.
Can he?
No. Of course he can.
When he's suspended?
He can sue. He is not suing in that regard because or not he was suspended. Don't forget, a course of action, before you commence an action in court, there are procedures. The first thing we lawyers look at is, has a course of action arise? That is number one. The second thing is the jurisdiction of the court to look at this dispute, which is the proper court. And the third thing you look at is locus standi, which is the proper parties to file. So I cannot file an action that is not directly that I'm not directly affected. Okay, I can come in as a joinder to the action to give it voice. That because this proper party have filed, I am also directly affected in this matter, so therefore I'm filing a joinder. So the matter as it is, approaching any court, if you look at the declaration of the emergency, the president did not affect the judiciary. The judiciary was there. The reason for him not to tamper the judiciary is simple, so that judiciary can be there to hear disputes, because the administrator cannot make laws. Okay, so the judiciary must be there to look at the action of the administrator as a way of checking and balancing his administration. So the administrator, if anyone sues him, he shouldn't get permission from anybody to reply the court. Don't forget, he doesn't have immunity, so he can be sued.
That's not the question I asked. Okay. What I asked is, there is a precedence in Supreme Court that
the Majo Kondomi case.
An administrator must approve of that file, of that suit.
No.
Particularly in the case of now, not the direct, like you said, the people who are directly affected. This is an NGO, I think. It's an NGO that took up this matter to a high court. I think probably you should do due diligence after now. You would find out what I have said. In the case of Plateau State, it actually did happen. When the sole administrator came out to say that I did not approve of this matter.
No, it is even unheard of. You know, me sitting here hearing that a sole administrator will approve of a matter for a matter to go on in court.
I think you should do your due diligence. You'll be surprised.
But one thing I know is simple.
Probably the interesting thing about River State crisis is that River State crisis has opened up a lot of inconsistencies, a lot of things that have been overlooked in the past, right?
Yes,
but are they existing? Yes, but when issues happen, it digs up this. Before I come on air to speak, you should know that I have done my background check, I have asked questions, and I have seen these things. Probably in the next episode, I will bring out the suit number, the file. I'll bring out all those things and I'll give you, so that you also go and do your due diligence. That actually did happen in the case of Plateau State. But then, moving forward, would you say that Ibas has not been impartial, or he has been partial? Do you stand by his statement?
No, so far I can't find any partiality.
They said that he appointed people who are on the side of the Minister of the Federal Capital Territory. I don't know how he arrived at that, but then that's what he said.
Yes, like you said, you don't know how Nze arrived at that conclusion. I am also confused because I am aware, just like he mentioned before, that most of the persons appointed as sole administrators are his bosom friends and family. I am aware of that because we are of same. We are yes, of course. We are of same religion. Okay, and we are of same church.
What's that? Okay, so now is it a church thing that is playing out? Like
no. I am also. Yes, Assemblies of God.
Okay, so now most of the appointees we are Assemblies of God members.
Some are Assemblies of God members who are close to us.
So does that mean that now there is
like the one of Gokana? The one of Gokana is our church member.
So probably we have to investigate to know if it
So what I am trying to clarify is that, and I am very aware that this man is not a stooge, or he doesn't even have a relationship with E.M. Wike.
I think
but his name
you can't say that because you don't know.
See, I see, we know people who are in support of Wike in Rivers State, and we also know those who are in support of Sim. So when I saw that list, I saw that most of the persons there are even apolitical. Probably Ibas got them from the civil service list.
You said they are mostly Assemblies of God members. So
no. I wanted to buttress the point.
I have to find out. I have to find out.
Why are you
it is very important because I want to know if this has a religious undertone.
Not at all.
If a particular denomination, hold on. No. You know, these conversations, like I always say, will open up a lot of things. I will have to find out if the sole administrator actually attends this denomination in question, and probably if there is some level of biasness. Now, not political biasness, but religious biasness.
No. There's no religious biasness on this. Now, please, let's make it clear.
Really?
Hold on. Let's make it clear. You know, when Dams told you that, we are of the same clique, he's my in-law. Let me just make it.
Oh, he's your in-law?
Yeah.
Interesting.
I think I gave him his right. But however,
yes.
That's why I told you that even though we are not of the same political divide, but we are of the same society. And my interest is the well-being of the society. His interest is the well-being of the society. That he is understanding it from this angle, and I'm understanding it from this angle. What we all need to do is to see that, boy, this thing that we are fighting after is based on our different perspective towards it. That's why I told you that there was no crisis in Rivers State, rather political disagreement and misunderstanding.
Do you agree with that? There was no crisis in Rivers State?
I don't agree with him that there was no crisis in Rivers State, because after that Supreme Court judgment, we are all residents in Rivers State. We saw how some group of persons were making threats. Okay. Thereafter, I can tell you for free that even that period, people refused to drive late nights. People refuse to drive. If you drive out at night, you see the roads are so scanty. So when this bombing began and all that, the president, in his wisdom, saw the need to arrest the situation before it will escalate to a level where the security agencies could not handle it. So moving forward, Ibas have taken steps to bring back government in the state, since the Supreme Court said there was no government.
Right.
People must fill vacancies to helping him achieve his 6 months mandate.
Okay.
He must use River sons and daughters to achieve that mandate. Okay? So, for now, Ibas have not done anything that we consider partial.
All right, very well.